But just make sure you unmute your mic. Yes, sir. What's going on, buddy?
Good, how you doing?
Good. Very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is just about 6 p.m. here. We do have quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and call this evening's meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals to order. First item on this evening's agenda is approval of the minutes of the May 23rd, 2024 meeting. Minutes have been submitted to members of the board in ample time for review. Are there any changes or amendments to these minutes? There being none, do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I make a motion that we accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries, minutes are approved. Next item on this evening's agenda is BZA hearing number 2024-05. Request for variance from the street side setback for parcel located at 621 Fairway Drive in the NC-15 zoning district identified as Florence County Tax Map number 90027-08-006. Owner of record and the applicant is listed as Richard and Caroline Genoble. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Zoning distance district is listed as NC-15. Board will now hear from city staff.
Good evening.
Hey.
This parcel is located at the intersection of Rosewood Drive and Fairwood Drive, just off of South Cashua. Here's a close-up look to it. The red line is our GIS parcel, but as you'll see in a moment, and you see in your packet, the applicant provided a survey of the parcel, and according to the survey lines, that they are quite a bit farther north than what our records show, and are shown by the yellow lines that I've put on there. So that does come into play because that is the side that they do want to put an addition on their garage. So by going by our lines, they wouldn't need a variance. They would be all right. But because the official survey is the one we have to go by, they would require a variance, as you'll see in a moment. So it is zoned NC-15, and these are the survey and the plot plan that I was talking about. On the left is the official survey, and it shows there's only 8 feet between the edge of the existing garage and the property line. And they, as you can see on the right, want to put an extension onto that garage to provide storage space, and it would require them to go right up onto that property line. Normally, the side street setback in that district, in the NC-15 district, is, I believe, is 15 feet. The distance from the edge of pavement, I believe, is like 45 feet, something like that. So it's got plenty of visual space. As you can see here, the picture on the right is looking down the edge of pavement, and all of that is considered part of the right-of-way. So the addition would go right up to where that brick fence is that's visible in front of that car. So visually, it would still have a wide swath between the house and the street. So as I explained to them, they could not build on top of the property line, but they wanted to see if y'all could approve them building to the property line. So, and the applicant is here if you have any additional questions. So that concludes staff's report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for city staff from members of the board?
Are there any safety risk to consider with this?
No, not that I can foresee.
What is the total variance they're asking? How many feet?
15 feet.
15 feet?
I believe that's a street side. Yeah, 15.
So they're wanting to build on the side, and it's a, right now, currently it's a 10-foot setback.
Right now it's only about 8.
It's an 8-foot.
because the house faces actually the intersection. So that, it technically has two street sides.
And they're asking a variance for the side or the front?
The side,
The sides.
the Fairway Drive side.
Thank you, Ms. Lane.
Any other questions for city staff from members of the board? Yeah, go ahead,
Yes,
Mr. President.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Is any neighbors, any
No.
concerns, or,
Haven't gotten any phone calls about this.
and no adjacent property owners have called and
No,
expressed any concern?
no, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any other questions from members of the board? All right, thank you very much. The board will now hear from the applicant, Richard and/or Caroline Genoble. Are they here?
Oh, yes, that's me.
Oh, hey, if you don't mind, step up to the microphone and just state your name clearly, and I'm gonna swear you in. Just state your name clearly.
Caroline Genoble.
All right, Mr. Noble, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Oh, well, we're just, so we're going to, our garage is already enclosed, but we are going to convert it to, I call it a mother-in-law suite. My in-laws live in Spartanburg, and they come visit a lot, and it gets a little crowded in our house with our 3 kids. So we are going to turn our garage into a mother-in-law suite with, a fold-out sofa bed for them and a full bath and kitchen. But currently, we use our garage for storage, golf cart, bicycles. So we really just want to add the space just to store that stuff once we turn the garage into a mother-in-law suite.
Gotcha. And as Mr. Poston alluded to earlier, any other questions from neighbors? Anybody said anything? Everybody's good to go?
Nope, they asked if we were building a lemonade stand, and I said, no, we're just adding 10 feet, and everybody seemed fine with it, so,
Just tell them it's a neighborhood
yeah,
gathering place.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Are there any questions for the applicant from members of the board? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Noble.
Sure.
Yep. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard either for or against this variance request?
I can speak.
Okay. Okay, yes, ma'am. Feel free. Same situation as before, just, don't run. Please, God, don't run. Just state your name clearly into the microphone and let me swear you in.
Liz Andrews.
All right, Ms. Andrews, that you promise that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Well, just in the interest of living in Florence and driving through that neighborhood, it is visually an extremely wide-looking swath of property right there. We were curious, really, as to why it was such a large setback on that side, and we're told maybe at one time there was supposed to be a two-way with a median or something, but visually, there's a fence there now, and it just doesn't seem that from a visual perspective that it impacts the look very much.
Okay.
Just extending the garage about 8 feet, just enough for storage.
All right. And you live nearby?
I live over by Briggs, but
Okay.
I'm actually helping them with the mother-in-law suite.
I got you. Okay. All right. Are there any questions for Ms. Andrews from members of the board? All right. And in your opinion, then, whatever they do is going to be fine with the
I
aesthetics?
think it's
of
going to
it?
look great.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard either for or against this variance request? All right, there being none, the chair will now entertain a motion to either approve or deny this variance request.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Okay.
to approve this variance
Yes, sir?
based on the following conditions. that a variance from the terms of the Unified Development Ordinance would not be contrary to the public interest where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions will in an individual case result in an unnecessary hardship. Impedance to the terms of the ordinance would prevent the owner from constructing the extra storage space. This constrained backyard does not have room for a storage building. Number two, that the spirit of the Unified Development Ordinance will be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done. The intent of the setback requirements in the ordinance is to provide space between houses, minimize the impact on neighboring parcels, and preserve the character of the neighborhood. Because of the excessive right-of-way and the unlikelihood that Fairway Drive will ever be widened to the point of the existing property line, building to the property line would not be expected to present a conflict. Number three, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to a particular piece of property. The parcel is at an intersection of two residential streets with large rights-of-ways. The backyard is much smaller than others in the area and does not have room for a storage building, necessitating the addition of storage space to the existing garage. Number four, that these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. Other properties in the area are typically rectangular lots with large front and backyards. Number five, that because of these conditions, the application of the Unified Development Ordinance to this particular property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property as follows. Impedance to the terms of the ordinance would result in the inability of the owner to add storage space to his or her property. Number six, that the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of this variance. The extensive right-of-way along Fairway Drive provides a visual side yard that is in keep with similarly oriented houses in the area.
All right, thank you, Mr. Poston. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. The variance request is approved. Mr. Noble, Ms. Andrews, you guys are welcome to stay for a riveting meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals, but you are free to go. And thank you for allowing your mother-in-law to stay with you and not dump your kids out to the street. Next item on this evening's agenda is BZA hearing number 2024-06. Request for special exception use permit for a parcel located at 2480 Hoffmeyer Road in the AC zoning district, identified as a portion of Florence tax map number 00099-01-089. The applicant's of record is Hewitt Land Company Incorporated. I'm sorry, the owner of record is Hewitt Land Company Incorporated. The applicant is 561 Low Country LLC. The board will now hear from city staff.
All right, this is a portion of a parcel at the intersection of North Beltline and Hoffmeyer Roads. As you can see, that parcel is a large piece. The one we're looking at is the one on the north side facing Hoffmeyer Road at the intersection with Troxel Boulevard. So the smaller rectangle in the picture there is the parcel that we're discussing. The request is to, it is zoned access activity center, which does permit restaurants, but, and it does permit restaurants with drive-throughs, which is what the request is for, but in this particular district, drive-through restaurants need the special exception use permit, which is why they had to come to you. So, the conditions for a drive-through restaurant, according to the ordinance, where the use of butts or is within 50 feet of a residential district or use, the stations are screened with a type C buffer yard. The closest residential use is the Crescent Villa Apartments, and they're over 200 feet away and not immediately adjacent to, and that part of the property does not even abut where the apartments are. So, as you can see here, the apartments are farther back down Troxel. That this parcel actually, if it abuts anything, it would be that other commercial lot that faces on Hoffmeyer. So that condition does not apply. And then that access is taken from a collector or arterial street, or in the case of a multi-tenant center, from an internal access drive. The access will be from the internal access drive because Hoffmeyer being a DOT road, they will not allow additional curb cuts. So that traffic will all be on those now existing driveways off Troxel Drive or that interior exit onto Hoffmeyer. But as part of the special exception use permit, if you see necessary, and this is for totally site-specific conditions can be applied by the board if necessary. They will be required to meet the landscaping requirements of the ordinance and all the other standard things that any other development would. So, but again, that is entirely up to the board's discretion whether they feel anything extra is required. Typically, normally a lot of parcels like this are zoned commercial general, which allow drive-throughs outright. This parcel just happens to be zoned AC, the activity center, with that, leading to that extra requirement. So that concludes staff's report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for city staff from members of the board?
I have a question. You were talking about the driveways into the property.
Yes, ma'am.
Now on Hoffmeyer, there's a drive in, I think, where the Christmas tree lot used to be.
Yes.
And then there's one with the new Scrubbies.
Right.
Scrubbies has 2 entrances. So will this building be using one of those 3
The
entrances?
site plan, that's very tentative site plan I saw, would have the access in and out driveways onto that frontage road that Scrubbies is on. If you look at the map, there's the one where the 2 boxes kind of intersect between the 2 boxes up there, that new frontage road. The access points will be onto that road.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
I guess to piggyback on Ms. Moses, so the main access will come from essentially Beltline.
Either Beltline
Or
or
Hoffmeyer?
people can do
Okay.
a right-in,
on
right out
Troxel.
off Hoffmeyer
Okay.
in that middle road there.
Okay.
Or off Troxel.
I got you.
There is an access road from Beltline?
Yes,
Yes, it's located behind this.
right
building.
next to Scrubbies there.
And so they would utilize what looks like 3 different ingresses and egress?
Well, they would have 2 driveways, but those driveways would then access that interior frontage road, and then you could turn right onto Hoffmeyer, you could go over to Troxel and turn left to get out, or you could go over to Beltline.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, they used to sell Christmas trees
Yes.
and whatnot, and there was a curb cut. I don't know if it was actually cut, but there was a curb cut
There is
accessible.
I think it's an unofficial curb cut.
Yeah, it's an
So
unofficial.
the
curb.
DOT's, they're not gonna,
I don't know,
That's-
but the site plan I saw did not use Hoffmeyer at all.
okay, so it's not even an existing road, so it's not even,
Right, it's not an official curb
Gotcha.
cut, so I don't think the plans include it.
If my memory serves correctly, coming off Hoffmeyer, I think you only can make a right to turn into it. I don't think you can make a left. You would
Right,
have to
if they
go
were to
onto,
use that new access point onto it, but off Troxel you can.
Okay,
yeah,
off Troxel. Okay, I'm not thinking about it. Okay.
Or if you needed to go left, you could go out onto Beltline, turn right, and then turn right again, or left at the light. And the applicant is here if you have questions for him.
Yeah. All right, are there any other questions for city staff from members of the board?
yes, Mr.
Go
Chairman.
ahead, Mr. President.
Any calls? I mean,
I did
Just out
get
of
one
curiosity.
call from a business owner, an adjacent business owner, who just expressed concern about traffic, stormwater, and possible trash overflow from the potential restaurant. The use itself, he didn't have a problem with, just the usual concerns about development in the parcel next to him.
I could see business traffic being a good thing, but I guess, was it a business owner on a adjacent property?
Yes.
A button property?
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's here to express his concerns.
He was not able to be here tonight. That's why he called and just wanted to make sure we were aware that he did have some concerns about that.
Did he write anything out or
No.
anything to express to us other than what you've
Just the phone call.
just done?
Are there, to back up, not really back up, just a question kind of coming off of that. Are there any plans from the city to widen Hoffmeyer in the next year?
It's a
two?
DOT road. I doubt it. I mean, it's already 5 lanes.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is.
And just to clarify, when making a motion to either approve or deny this request, this is just a simple special exception?
Yes,
So you
sir.
see, it's a simple statement,
Up or down. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know that we've even had one of these before, just one or two,
I think we have one.
We've had one before.
Yeah.
I just wanted to refresh. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I mean, and of course, if there were any conditions that
Correct.
needed to be added, aside from that.
Right.
But yeah, it's just a simple up or down.
Okay.
And the conditions, or either one, the conditions are clearly listed. Y'all provided those.
Those are options depending, yeah, those are not requirements. Those are, because some of these special exception use permits are things like a short-term rental or other things that might be in a more residential area that would require or suggest it would be an okay use, but it would be better if it could be mitigated in some way,
And so that's something we need to add in if
if you
we
felt
deem
it was
appropriate.
necessary.
Yeah, for example, if there were citizens concerned about light pollution from an adjacent site, you
Yep.
could somehow control, or require shielding of lights or something like that to mitigate a certain nuisance or so. So that's where a condition may come into play.
I mean, if the apartments were right next to this, maybe you'd require extra buffering or something, but they're not, they're farther back.
Okay.
In that case, would it be appropriate to have some bit of site plan or site building plan or something to see, like you mentioned, the lights and, I mean, in that case, you would kind of figure a little bit better whether you need a barrier or some type of buffer, because you're bringing up the apartments, or I'm not sure if they're apartments, but living conditions, right down from there.
Yeah. I mean, I think they meet the distance requirements per the special exception from residential uses, and meet them, by 5 times. So, I mean, I would think they're okay, but of course, that's at the discretion of the board. And by code, they are required, just so you know, they are required to shield lights from adjacent property owners, especially residential districts. So that's already in the code, yeah.
Yeah, that would be something over and above.
Yeah, we would do part of that as part of our administrative review against the code to make sure they're not causing light pollution onto residential neighbors.
Is there, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
is there a staff recommendation? I mean, do y'all have is it contrary to what the city's aiming for, or is there any type of input?
I don't think that's out of line in this case. I feel that the applicant clearly meets the conditions of this special exception, and they are also located along one of the major corridors where there's similar development in the area. So I think staff would recommend granting this special exception.
Thank you, Ms. Dudley. Thank you, Ms. Lane.
All right. Are there any other questions for city staff from members of the board? All right. Thank you very much. There being none, the staff will now hear from the applicant. Is there somebody from 561 Low Country LLC present? Oh, yes, sir. Hey. Yeah, one of you. Same thing as before. Just state your name clearly into a microphone. Let me swear you in, sir.
Henry Atkins, Jr.
Henry Atkins. All right, Mr. Atkins, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
I do.
All right, sir, go ahead.
Again, Henry Atkins, thank y'all for hearing our case this evening. We believe that it's in line with the surrounding development and has ample distance, quite beyond what the existing zoning may require from the residential, which is always very sensitive to new commercial business coming next to them. We obviously are aware of the traffic concern from one of the neighbors. We are not pursuing any additional DOT curb cuts, so all of the existing infrastructure is there. And if you don't mind going back to the plan, I think I could kind of provide some color on that. So this, internal access road, which is you also mentioned in the special exception requirements, which we meet, will have all of the access coming here. So there will not be any. The Christmas tree drive is just in the spirit of Christmas. I don't think
right.
that was a real curb cut. So it's a right in, right out there. It's a right in, right out there. You do have full access there, and then obviously the light back at Beltline. So any of that proposed traffic, generally it's going to be the traffic that's already on the road making a pit stop. We're not a major destination where we're drawing people from a wider area. We'll come through, make a couple of turns off of Hoffmeyer before it actually gets into the site. So it's not like where you get a decel lane or something to avoid traffic on the main artery. So I believe that the traffic is amply controlled. There's multiple access points out of it, and all of the access to the potential development is internal off of that road. So like I said, I believe it's in line with the surrounding uses, has ample distance from the residential folks. We're not pursuing any additional curb cuts than what's already been approved. Obviously, we'll follow all the state stormwater and all the city code in relation to buffers and, providing a class development there in line with the code. So anyway, like I said, it is permitted, but we need the special exception in this case because it is zoned AC, and I believe there may be larger plans behind it, hopefully someday in the future that we're not involved with, but I believe it's in line with your typical commercial development on that type of more or less out parcel type use.
Gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant from members of the board?
Yeah, I have.
Go ahead,
Are we
Ms.
looking at one restaurant?
Yes, ma'am, at the time.
Is this like a franchise? Can you tell us what kind of a
I
restaurant?
was extremely early. We have the property under contract, and we don't have the specific user in mind, but and it's slightly difficult to find without knowing that we are allowed to have the drive-through window. So at this time, I do not know who the specific user is, but obviously it's just one drive-through window.
So y'all don't have anybody lined up right now. What you're doing is planning for the future, making sure that whatever you pursue a client, y'all gonna actually have something that's available and permitted.
Yes, sir. With that amount of traffic, most of the potential users will require a drive-through of some sort, just to benefit from that location. And there could be another business there, but it won't be a traffic business. So it's just one drive-through window. But we don't know at this time, so that's all hypothetical.
And as far as you're planning right now, there's gonna be one operating business. It won't be a.
Yes, sir. The building kind of
yeah.
parallel to Hoffmeyer, so it'll sit back off the road. It's an acre-and-a-half site. Most of these type developments are on sometimes less than an acre, and that's where you get very crammed and you have a lot of, traffic issues. So we've got, frankly, really more land than we need here. So in terms of meeting the code and landscaping, we've got a lot of room for buffers, frankly, a lot of wasted space, but we'll use that to make it, look nice and make sure we've got some flexibility in our site planning with any, meeting the city requirements, so.
And plenty of green space and.
Yeah, you can walk your dog after you.
There you go.
So.
And all that's as far as, making sure you have impervious surfaces, y'all are on top of that.
We are actually, the Scrubbies did all of the DOT work. They also handled the stormwater for this site. So the stormwater is actually already in place for more impervious area than we intend to use. So I guess, have more capacity than we need right now. Any future development on the Hewitt track will potentially trigger, an expansion and or relocation of that stormwater to handle future development. But our parcel is less impervious area than they have capacity for. So we're underserving that pond.
Mentioning next door, the Scrubbies place, is that part of the Hewitt property as
They
well?
did purchase that from the Hewitt family, yes.
Ah, gotcha. And they set up the stormwater?
And they did all the road work and everything, so they worked with DOT. We're not getting anything else from DOT, they got it all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of all in place, we're just, putting the puzzle in, and it's already kind of surrounding us.
Fantastic. Well, I must commend you on your preparation and your planning. It seems like you sure got your ducks in a row.
Yes, sir, I've been in a few of these before, so I was grateful, always grateful to not see too many faces when you walk in.
Oh, absolutely.
I've been in both scenarios, but I honestly feel like this is very not controversial and in line with the long-term use plan.
Are you in direct contact with the business owner that expressed a little bit of disinterest?
I have not been. I've been looking in that area for a while, so I may have talked to him at some point. I don't know who that would be. I know it's not Walmart, and I know it's not Scrubbies, so it may be. I don't know exactly who that is, but they have not reached out to us directly, and I believe our numbers are published as well. So.
And surely if they did, they'd ask you for something specific, site-specific, or maybe higher bushes or something you would accommodate.
Right, we could accommodate that. Like I said, we have ample room to make any accommodations that are necessary, within reason, but
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Poston. Thank you, Mr. Atkins.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other questions for the applicant from members of the board? All right, is there anybody else who wishes to be heard either for or against the special exception permit? All right, there being none, the chair will now entertain a motion to either approve or deny this special exception permit. And just as a reminder, this request does not have to list out every single thing like we usually do. This is a simple up and down vote to either approve or deny the special exception permit.
I'll make a motion that we approve the special
Sorry.
special exception
Use permit.
use permit.
Thank you, Mr. Valor. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The special use permit is approved. And again, Mr. Atkins, as I mentioned earlier, you're welcome to stay, but you can leave if you want to. All right.
Thank you for your time.
That's right.
Long U-turn.
That's right, yeah.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be in touch.
Well, get something to eat before you leave. We could use the tax dollars.
Anywhere downtown is great.
That's right.
No, I've stayed at Hotel Florence a few times.
There you go.
We'll be back. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Next item on this evening's agenda is BZA hearing number 2024-07. Request for a variance from the location restrictions for accessory structure at 3200 South Irby Street in the CA zoning district, identified as tax map number 00152-01-016. Back up here. I know who the owner is, but I want to make sure I get this right. There we go. Owner of record is Florence District 1. Applicant is Nicole Blackman Lee with Tyson Sign Company. The board will now hear from city staff.
Good evening. This is a little bit of deja vu. This is South Florence.
Aha,
Back in October, we did
Yes.
West Florence and Wilson.
right.
And at the
We
time,
knew
we're
this
like,
was
where's
coming
South
eventually, yeah.
Florence? We figured they would at some
two
point.
state championship appearances and one win.
Yeah, they were
Yeah, they're coming.
counting their wins, I think. They were too busy at the time.
That's right.
So here they are.
Okay.
And as you're very familiar with, the South Florence campus on South Irby Street at East House Springs Road, they are also requesting their own campus also, which has its restrictions on accessory structures, which is why we're here. In the campus district, accessory buildings are not subject to a specific maximum footprint, but if they're larger than 200 square feet, they shall be located within the building envelope, or if they're 200 square feet or less, shall be situated behind the principal building, set back 10 feet from all side and rear property lines. And specifically, no detached accessory building shall be located in a required front yard. If we were to consider this a sign, it would be too big, because the maximum size would be 100 and, actually it's only 80 square feet in campus. and it's 362 square feet. So we were looking at this as an accessory structure, just like we did with the other two. And just as with the other two, they wanted to be in the front yard, this one wants to be in the front yard. As you can see, it's at the driveway going to the football stadium at the intersection there on Irby Street. And there's the picture of the sign. It's 41 feet wide and almost 9 feet high for a total of 362 square feet. In comparison, the Wilson is 33 wide by 6 high for 210 square feet. And then West Florence is just a paltry 23 by 7 for 171 square feet. But as Mr. Jones pointed out, they are state champions.
As a former Bruin, I approve of this message.
I vote that
recuse yourself.
I vote that we strike that from the record.
So that concludes staff's report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for city staff from members of the board? No, all joking aside, I will state the obvious. That's a pretty huge sign. And I heard conversations earlier, considering what happened last month. Apprehensive isn't a word, but I'll use it. The last sign that we debated for nearly 3 months on was 362 square feet. This one's in addition to that.
Also six-
I'm sorry, it was, it was 535 square feet. This one's 362, but still substantially large within the city limits, so.
In comparison, a billboard is 372.
So essentially,
It's the size of a
billboard on the ground, okay,
which would not be permitted there.
right. Has Tyson Sign Company to the city expressed nearly, 40% increase in square footage versus the others?
I did ask about it. She was going to get back to me
Okay.
after she got an answer, but I
Okay.
think that's why Mr. Jones is here.
I got you, okay. All right. Are there any other questions for city staff from members of the board? All right, thank you very much.
I do have one
Oh, I'm
question.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
It's just, can you put the measurements of the other two signs up? I'm trying to get in my brain how
Sure.
big. So that one's 362. And how big was Weston 362? Wow. Was it any specific reason why they made that sign so much bigger? We don't know.
I don't
All right.
know. And if you've seen the Wilson and West signs in person, they're
They're big.
significant.
They look good. Very
Yeah, they definitely look well. I was just curious. It's like, why did they decide? I didn't pay attention. I guess West is smaller letters than Wilson, but
Yeah, it has fewer
South
letters.
is fewer letters than Wilson, but it's longer. I don't know. But I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, it's 9 feet longer than the Wilson sign.
May I ask, city, is it we still the city?
You're still with the city, yes, sir?
Who's paying for this?
I have no idea.
The city's?
Not the city, no. I think this is a school project.
Was there any, calls?
No,
None whatsoever?
no.
Huh.
But the houses behind here will not be impacted.
So this is not a matter of the size, it's just, what, you said eight, I'm sorry,
The
you said 80s
location.
The location,
The
but
location.
you mentioned 80 square feet is permitted?
If it was considered a secondary identification sign, which by its location, it could be, but so could the West or the Wilson one, then it would be too large
And then you just gonna need a variance?
for
with
the
those.
size. Then you would need a variance for the size. If they were to consider it a sign, they would need a size variance. We had made the choice before to consider the other two as accessory structures, and so they just needed a location variance because size wasn't a factor.
But this one is.
And just to remind the board, that's the question here now. The variance request is for the location of an accessory structure. I didn't mean to distract by bringing up the size, but it did kind of
I apologize for
raise
asking
further.
that
No,
question.
yeah, the size of the structure is not under question. It's just the accessory. It's just the location. I'm sorry, it's location.
It's just, the perception will be that it is a sign.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
And they currently already have a sign right at the intersection of Alligator and House Springs,
That's correct, on Irby Street, yeah.
and they are permitted 2 signs on, what is that considered a,
They would be permitted 2 freestanding signs,
What is
but
it?
this one would be a good twice the size of.
are they classifying for, both of them are on South Irby, or is it one on House Springs and one on?
I believe
Because of
so.
all the frontage, they would be allowed 2 freestanding signs along, because it's every 300 linear
300.
feet.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And the
far
other
to see.
one is at the intersection of Irby and House Springs.
So regardless, it's 300 feet, so it's.
Yes.
But just to clarify, this is not being considered a sign, it's an accessory structure.
Technically,
Ish.
yes.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. Any other questions for city staff from members of the board? All right, thank you very much. The board will now hear from the applicant. Is Ms. Lee here from Tyson Sign Company, or a representative from the school district? You, sir. All right. If you don't mind, sir, just please state your name clearly to your microphone. Let me swear you in.
Kyle Jones.
All right, Mr. Jones, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give is the whole truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, sir.
So appreciate this board's approving West and Wilson. This is our 3rd and final high school placement. South Florence are our reigning state champions,
Yes, sir.
and we love to win.
Yes, we do.
And we love hardware, and we believe that that's good for the community as well as building school spirit. This sign, mathematically, does have some larger letters. They are similar in size. Wilson, as you alluded to, the I and the L don't take as much square footage as a U, T, and a H. That is correct. And the mascot, which is pictured in the U, we have logo guides that match these. It is about 2 feet larger on the bear head than the tiger was. So I can speak to those things. Footings, anchorings, etc., would be installed as the drawings state, and they would be put in, installed, just like we did at Wilson and West Florence. These would go, we have a little larger area, if you will, than Beltline and off Old Marion, as it is kind of right before you get to the practice field, and it is across from the tennis courts that the students practice on. And I think as you drive in to each athletic stadium, you kind of get that feel that, hey, we mean business, and we want to win, and we want the opposing team to kind of feel that atmosphere as they come in.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Are there any questions for the applicant from members of the board? I noticed that the exact location hasn't been determined, but in previous conversations with both the other high schools, the concern was to make sure the sign was pushed back far enough so that pictures could be taken.
Correct. So
Yes, sir.
if you'll go back, so these have been great accessories for prom pictures, graduation pictures. We have this area here, we just mocked up. They will go adjacent to these tennis courts, but we have all this area there,
Okay.
back to the practice field and over a little bit.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Keeping the students safe is our number 1 priority, I promise you.
Yeah, yes, sir.
You will have no issues there.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. President.
The sign company that's installing this, I do not recall the last ones. Are they the same company that did the last 2?
Tyson signs, they come right out of the beach, right outside of Conway. They do a nice job with the 3D designs.
And as far as you know, they pretty much identical, just a little bit larger.
That's correct. Yeah, based
far as
on
holding
the
it to the
alphabetical,
ground
lettering. These are much like West Florence, outlined and trimmed. West had 4 letters and did not have the mascot incorporated in the West lettering. South Florence does, as Wilson, because the O makes a great place to insert the logo.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you can't put a helmet on the E or the S or the T, so yeah.
But I mean, we've had great feedback. If you've seen on social media, I think it's been a great addition, and it really presents that almost collegiate type feel as you come on the campus to compete.
Now, are you representing just South Florence District School? You got your all
So
three?
I'm the deputy superintendent of Florence One Schools. So I bleed purple for Wilson, West, and certainly South Florence. We support our reigning state champions, but all schools.
Oh, fantastic. Also, I know you kind of mentioned a little bit of updates in regards to the West and the Wilson one. Has there been any, I don't know, any problems, whatnot, other than great place to take photos? And
Yeah, probably more. Probably more time to have students, photographers, parents, etc., come out. I kind of stumbled on that a little bit, but when graduation comes, it's a fast-paced challenge. But if we could photograph 2,000 students quickly, I think it'd be awesome to have a photo op. I mean, that's really where we go. And so just like we send, signs for their yard for that week when they're graduating, I think this is a great addition, and I can see, they put this as their profile pictures, etc. So it really has built that sense of community and school spirit.
And as far as students, there hadn't been any safety issues?
None.
I hadn't looked at the,
So I don't want you to play on it like a jungle gym, but you could.
Yeah.
I just don't advertise that, But it very, very safe, secure. It's well built, well constructed, and I have nothing but positives.
and as far as you know, would they be the same height as what we've already approved?
Correct. So the lettering height is very similar. The Bruin logo is a bit larger. The bear head.
As far as height, I'm
Yes,
kind
sir.
of
Yes, sir.
alluding to maybe if a student climbs on top of it, if it's 10 more feet higher than what
No,
we've
sir.
approved in West Florence.
No, sir.
It says 8 to 10 feet, so y'all are still kind of, what was this? Yeah,
So-
8 to 10 feet.
Yes, sir. So the letters themselves will be about 6 feet in height, and the bear head will be just a little bit larger, as it's kind of has a little larger presence with the ears popping out, etc.
And should extend 10 foot.
I believe it's going to be 8 feet 10 inches.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yes,
I
sir.
thought it said 8 to 10. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, there's 1 comma for the feet. Gotcha. Yes, sir. Thank you for that.
Are there any other questions for the applicant from members of the board?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Right, Mr. President.
I'm curious. What's a sign like this cost?
They're around 40 to 50.
1,000 or 100?
1,000. Yep.
1,000? And the school district taxpayer is going to pay for this?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. It's approved in the budget?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic.
Yep. And I think this is fitting, in our final one to kind of outfit the reigning state champions as we go into the next season. Hopefully we can get back to the big show again.
That's right. And to clarify to you, Mr. Poston, you've already paid for this sign. So,
Yes, sir, I have.
We did,
this
last
year.
month we did pass our budget.
that's right.
Paid in full.
That's right. Yes, sir. You've already been paid,
Paid
sir.
for all of them.
Are there other questions for the applicant from members of the board? All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else who wishes to be heard either for or against this variance request? All right. There being none, the chair will now entertain a motion to either approve or deny this variance request. And as a reminder, this is just a variance request for the location restriction, not the square footage of the actual structure.
Mr. Tuning?
Yes, sir.
Chairman Tuning?
Yes, sir.
May I ask the city,
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
jump back to you, same questions I had the last one. Is there a city recommendation as far as what y'all's opinion?
We already have the West and Wilson ones, so this was expected.
I don't think we typically give recommendations on variance requests, but I will say from the city standpoint, I think one of our concerns were student safety, obviously, and being closer to the road. But the applicant's indicated that he's gonna, pull it back as far as possible without interfering with the facilities that are there now, so.
Do we have a number as said, as far back from Beltline, the west sign is, and as far as, I forget the road at Wilson's on?
Well, the one at Beltline is on the other side of the parking lot.
That's right.
It's at least
So
50
it's,
feet.
yeah, it's very far away. The one at Wilson is much closer to the street, but it's not as busy of a road as
Yeah.
Irby
Okay.
Street.
But it will be with the battery plant.
Yeah, at least twice a day.
That's right.
Is there a minimum setback that's just gonna be away from the roads, or?
Well, because
Is that a
accessory
recommendation?
structures don't typically go in the front yard, there isn't one listed in the ordinance. A sign is only 5 feet
From the road?
from the front property line.
Surely it won't, surely they won't. put
I'm
a
sure
5
they'll
foot-
exceed be farther back than 5 feet, I would think.
Is there anything within the ordinance that lists any sort of public structure being X numbers of feet away from
Like
essentially a
public art or
5-lane
something.
highway?
Yeah, not that I can think of.
Because in the previous hearing, the road had 100-foot right-of-way. That's a lot. But I know we can put special requests and requirements on a variance request. But just to back up on what Mr. Poston's concern is, that's an insanely busy highway.
Yeah, I think as a mother, I would be much more comfortable if it was, like, I know they want to line it up with the tennis courts. I'd be more comfortable with it backed up a little bit, because just thinking of where people are gonna park to take their pictures and such.
Right.
Plus, I think that would make it look less like another sign,
I got you.
but that's just my opinion.
Sure.
And just roughly where they have it now, and this is just a rough measurement on GIS on my phone, but they seem to have it, from the right of way about 80 feet.
Okay.
So that's a pretty good distance.
Okay.
That site is very large. That
Yes, sir.
That picture makes it look small, but it's a
Yeah.
very expansive site.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to give you an idea.
Thank you.
And that's from the right-of-way.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
from
Or the edge of pavement?
Nah, I plopped it right on actually on the right of way. So it's
Okay.
from the edge of pavement. I can give you that approximation. Let's see. I can get my phone to cooperate again. On the edge of pavement, it looks to be closer to about between 90 and 100 feet.
From edge of pavement. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's from
From Irby Street.
from 52, or Irby Street, yes, sir. Okay. All right.
And this is a setback?
No, this is just where they have it plopped down. The question was,
Gotcha.
you know, how far back from the road is the little circle that they have there now?
And that's approximate.
That's yes, sir, yes, sir.
Which he
But it's
he
more
wouldn't
than I
final
thought.
on the location, as you stated.
Correct, yeah. So if we were to make a recommendation on the approval of a variance based on the following findings of fact, also in addition to placing the sign no less than 100 feet from edge of pavement of Highway 52/Irby Street.
That would be a recommendation.
If, yeah. I think that would alleviate some of the concerns we have for safety and moms and dads everywhere, the way the city alluded to. All right, are there any other questions from members of the board? All right, there being none, the chair will now entertain a motion to either approve or deny this variance request. All right, the chair would like to make a motion that we approve this variance request based on the following findings of fact. that a variance from the terms of this ordinance will not be contrary to the public interest where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions will, in an individual case, result in unnecessary hardship. Enforcement of the terms of this ordinance does not result in a hardship for the school, but it would prevent it from constructing a structure that is desired to encourage school pride and identification by the students and alumni, as we have already seen in the other two high schools. That the spirit of the ordinance will be observed, public safety and welfare secured, and substantial justice done. The purpose of the regulation is to prevent an accumulation of accessory buildings and structures in the front yards of campus buildings for aesthetic and safety reasons. Number three, that there are extraordinary exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. The large accessory structure is being requested for a high school campus, which does constitute a unique land use. That these conditions do not generally apply to other properties in the vicinity. The school is unique in its size and use. South Florence High School is similar in condition and character to Wilson and West Florence High Schools, which both received permission to install similar scaled and styled structures. 5, that because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular properties would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict utilization of the property. Denial of the variance would not prevent the use of the property for a high school. The structure can be located on site principal buildings without a variance, but doing so does not meet the standard goal of having it visible and easily accessible. And number 6, that the authorization of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by granting the variance. South Florence High School is located on a busy 4-lane road with residential areas behind it. The structure will not be visible from residential uses. And a final addition, that the sign be placed no less than 100 feet from the edge of pavement of Highway 52, Irby Street. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a second. I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Poston. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. The variance request is approved. There being no other items on this evening's agenda, are there any updates from city staff? Any announcements?
We do not have any cases scheduled for July 25th meeting, and the deadline for me to send in the public notice was today, so enjoy your Thursday night off. So the next scheduled meeting is August 22nd.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Jones, I apologize. I meant to thank you. Thank you so much. And you're free to go. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your approval.
Are there any announcements from the board? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.